Welcome to the HTH Church podcast. We are a church in the heart of Hastings whose desire is to build communities of people who are so passionate about being with Jesus, becoming like Jesus, and joining in with what Jesus is doing, that lives, families, and communities are changed and transformed one at a time. On this podcast, you can keep up to date with the latest talks from our Sunday services, as well as additional bonus episodes which include conversations, interviews, devotions, and much more. If you'd like to find out more about the church, you can visit our website, hthchurch.org. Otherwise, we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello, everyone. I have a confession to make. My wife's from London. She's a proper Cockney. And whenever I came south, she always said to me, "Speak slow." And I haven't. I forgot about it. She said to me yesterday, "Are you speaking slow?" And I was like, "No." How does anyone understand you? But I think I've been all right. Do you? Can you understand me? Yeah, I'll just see if this mic's working. I always have problems with mics, you know. I'm Davids and Collins. I'll keep leaving the pauses. I'm on for an hour, only kidding. So you better turn your roast off. So my name's Graham, I'm from Middlesbrough. I'm with David. Where's he gone? There he is. He's got to see if there's any silver at the back. Only kidding, by the way. I often say things and then people ask me later on if I was telling the truth or not. I once said a story about my son, and I said, "Oh, he's a bit naughty, but don't worry, I've got a stick with nails in the cupboard I hit him with." And this lady from social services came up to me and went, "Were you being serious?" I went, "No, certainly not. He's got one he hits me with." So we've come a long way. It's great to be here, and you know, I hope this isn't the last time, but I like Hastings. It's great, isn't it? And I've just been to the toilet across the road, and I said to the lady, "These toilets are the best toilets I've ever been in." In Middlesbrough, you don't have them. You go into a toilet in Middlesbrough and there's a bush there. We used to find the bushes. But we've drove a long way, and there's a couple of things I want to say. One is we're going to go straight home, and we came yesterday. But I haven't come a long way to lie to you. I could go at the end of my street, find a few people, tell them a few lies about my story, and then go in. I could have watched a film with my wife last night and had a nice Chinese or something, or whatever we decided to eat on a Saturday night, because our special night on a Saturday. But she knows that I am committed and called to preach the gospel. So I do travel a lot. So we haven't come a long way to lie to you. And the other thing is I haven't come to boast about my past. In fact, when I wrote my book, we put them in the prisons. 40,000 have been put in the prisons now. My friends who I went to the football matches with and lived with and grew up with said, "Graham, why didn't you put this story in or that story of when we took on these and we know we did really bad stuff?" I said, "Well, it's not about that. I put some of that in, and when you watch the film, which is if you got the QR code on the back, you'll see that." Now, the reason I'm telling you that, because people are I was very interested whether it was the truth or not. And I want to tell you the truth, that I am telling the truth right now about what happened to me and where I've come from. So my life began as I was a baby. Normally kidding. I was born in a place called Parkside in Middlesbrough town centre. So I was born in TS1, which means I'm a proper borough lad from Middlesbrough. And I lived on a council estate, and I didn't know why I was living in this house with my nana and granddad and my three uncles. And my bed was at the end of my mum's bed in this little tiny room. I didn't know why I was there and why I didn't have a dad until later on, and I found out my dad was very abusive to my mum. He used to knock her around a bit, and just for the sake of the children. He did things to her that weren't right, and as a result, I was born out of one of them violent nights. And so really, I was born out of violent episode, an encounter, rather than when I have my two boys and I fell in love with my wife Natasha. We had two children because we loved each other and we wanted to have children. And that wasn't the case for me. When I was 10-year-old, my mum got married and moved. She got married to a really nice man called Dave. And I didn't realise how selfish I was till later on. And this man, Dave, was the opposite of my real dad. He didn't hit her. He didn't do them things I've just mentioned to her. He didn't rob her. And he didn't get drunk and hurt her. He was the opposite. He treated my mum really kind. He loved her. Took her around the world, got her a house, made her car, never swore at her, never hit her. He treated her like a princess. And yet I hit him and robbed him because he took my mum off me, because I was selfish. But it just didn't happen. It was over a process of me trying to deal with what had gone on in my life. At 10-year-old, as I say, she got married, and I remember the day when she was walking down the street, because at that point my mother was my life, and I seen her walking down the street with this man, and now I'm not part of that life no more. And something entered here, which I had no one to ask, I had no one to talk to find out what it really was. But it was a pain that was indescribable, that made me cry myself to sleep every night, made me cry myself on the stairs, and wondering what was going to happen to me. Because my nana, even though she was great fun, she couldn't cook. My nana, by the way, she made some funny mistakes, and she never had her teeth in, and she was always drinking and took prescribed medication. She was in a mental institution all her life that I was alive and she was alive. She died when I was 20. But she had this electric shock treatment trying to make her brain work again. But she was good fun. And I could get away with a lot with her. I remember I used to get her to write letters for me for school. And she'd say, when were you off, son? I'd say, remember last week when I had a... that's right, son. Write me a letter. It worked for about 3 months, and then I got caught. But so my nana was great fun, and I really cared about her. But this word love really had no substance to me. And 11 and a half year old, I went to see her. She'd had electric shock treatment again. And she had, when I got there, she said to me, "Who are you?" And I ran away. I ran back to outside the pub on my estate where my mum worked. And I remember thinking I've got an option to go in and tell me mum, as I was crying in anger really, in frustration, about my nana saying, oh, were you? But then I realised that I didn't really want the reply, because my mum would have said, "Shut up, you baby, get a lemonade and some crisps and just go." I didn't want that. I wanted someone to care for me and tell me everything was going to be okay. So that very night, I made a decision that I was never, ever going to let anything good happen to me. I didn't want to be good. I didn't want anything good around me. Because every time something good seemed to be there for me, I don't mean like a football or anything. I mean like a person, like my mother, like my nana. And like even when thinking about your dad, because I got told stories that he left because of me and loads of lies. So I decided that I'd join this gang with my friends. My best friend's Somalian, and we joined this gang. And I got into all kinds of trouble. I had a really good relationship with the police, and they knew me by name. I thought it was awesome, you know. I'd go to the town, and me and my mates and the lasses, and especially when the lasses were around, I used to like when the police called, "Hey, Graham, where are you going?" I think, shake my head a bit. I was totally lost. I thought that was the way to be bad, and that's good. And so that's what I did. And I got into lots of trouble, went to juvenile court a lot, I fought, broke into schools. You know, I used to do some really stupid stuff. They should have called me Bungalow, you know, because there was no upstairs. And seriously, there was nothing up here. I was a great big mountain and a good boxer. I had 28 amateur fights and played rugby. But I had no brains. I had no real brains, so I have now, and I'm good looking, so I can't help that. The sad thing is I've always been good looking, and there's some people out there thinking, I bet he's a good catch, but I am married now, so you've had it. So anyway, so what happened was I broke into my own school, right? And I sprayed, Gram was here, everywhere. And so, can you imagine the police? So even you aren't daft enough to do that, are you, Seed? And I seen him looking at the headmaster, and the headmaster saying, he absolutely is. So them are the stupid things I did. And then it was escalating into trying to impress these leaders of this gang. So I'd fight in pubs, and I was getting involved with a lot of stuff. And then when I was 15, the man died, and they roped me in, and we wanted to charge me with murder. Now, this is a bit different than a street robbery or breaking into a school. Now the murder squad have got involved, and they want to chat with me. Nevertheless, what happened, I was in police station for 5 days. I went to court twice. But by the time the Friday came when they released me, I kind of I got myself right and thinking that I conditioned myself that I was going to jail forever. So the reason I'm telling you that, because when I got out of there, now there was no further action, because they found that this man had died as a result of the bus. The bus driver was drunk, and when we had this riot, he ran this man over, and the man got stuck in between a signpost, and it ran over his head and killed him. And why I am telling you that story, because when I got out of there and there was no further action, there's no other crime on this planet apart from the stuff that you don't do, which we didn't, them, that do with little kids and women. I've never hit a woman in my life, never would. But there's no other crime that can give me a sentence other than what I was ready to do. So I was out of control. So I'm trying to tell you, I was totally out of control. I was a big lad at the age of 15. I weighed 14.5 stone. I was 6'2", eyes are blue, very good looking. But I was out of control, and nobody could control me. I didn't listen. I didn't want to listen. When I was 16, I went to a detention centre, which has been in all the papers and all the news, and you could Google it. It's called Medhamsley Detention Centre. I was in there, and there was a lot of problems. And in that prison, in that detention centre, I lost my first tooth, I had my ribs broken, I had my face smashed in, because I went against the system. And they were told to give these young people a quick, sharp shock. When I got out of there, I was angrier. And then my granddad died, and my mum now lives in a different place because of what I'd done. She now lives in a place called Durham, or Bowburn, near Durham. And she's now running a hotel. And I'm homeless. I've been to jail and I'm homeless, but it doesn't matter because I have so many people I can stay with. I don't care. I was able to see my nana on a Thursday. That was all right. But then I was looking for something else to do, because that gang that I was involved with, it kind of dissolved, really. So I'm now looking for something else to do. And some people invited me to a football match, and they said, do you want to come to this match and become part of the Middlesbrough front line? And I said, what's all that about? And they said, well, look, there's all kinds of benefits of excitement. So we go all around the country, you wear nice clothes, and every night there's a nightclub or a pub that someone owns in the football scene, in the underworld of Middlesbrough, and there's always something to do. So that's what I did. I went to this football match, and I couldn't believe how much violence there was. But as I said to the youth last night, the street called my name. So people knew me and called me, Graham this and Graham that. I want to fight Graham, I want to batter Graham, I want to challenge Graham. And it was almost like my name was wrote all over the streets of Middlesbrough. And I became part of that street. And I became part of this gang, and I became part of Middlesbrough. And if you ask me now, why did I go to them football matches to fight? I don't really know. All I can tell you is it seemed like a big family. And I'm a loyal person. And my face will tell you that, because I've been stabbed and I've been hit with hammers. I was hit with a sword over at Millwall My eye was cut open at West Ham. A bit of my chin's been took away. I've been stabbed in the arm and chest 4 times. I had my finger chopped off. I got cut open so bad there at Leeds, my muscle came through my arm. I've got little holes in my head where I've been hit with things and axes and hammers and baseball bats and all kinds of things. I've had my arms pulled out the sockets. I'm sat here now because I'm disabled because of my past. I've got a problem called spondylitis, which means my right leg now will go numb, so I can't stand up for long because when I stand up, this right leg just dies. And now they've found that my blood's going down my legs all right, but not coming up properly, so I've got to have some investigation done. But the problem is, when I was a young lad fighting at the matches with my Fila Bjorn Borg tracksuits on, with all the muscles, I didn't realise that one day I'd be a disabled person. I didn't look at that. And what I try and do is teach people to look forward. And, Jesus, we need to look to his story. History is gone. It's his story that I'm living every single day of my life. Not tomorrow, but today. His story is relevant to me today and relevant to you today, whether you know it or not. And if you're looking for freedom, there's no place you'd ever find it other than Jesus. I've tried it all. And what happened to Gran was I gave up. I went to live in Wakefield. I thought I'd start a new life, turn my back on the football violence. I've been in and out of prison, done some long jail sentences. And I said, right, that's enough of Middlesbrough now. I'm going to go and live in a place called Wakefield near Leeds. I got a job on Empire Store's catalogue firm. And I found the cupboard where they gave free his and her watch sets for Christmas. So if you joined that catalogue firm in 1990, you got a free his and her watch set. And I used to take a few bags full every night and sell them in the pubs for £10 each. And they reckon everyone in Wakefield that year got a his and her watch set for Christmas. And you'll see David over where the book stand is, underneath the table, there's some his and her watch sets right now. Let me tell you though, they're 15 quid inflation. So I got the sack. But let me tell you how deceived I was. I thought it was their fault. I said, you employed a criminal. It's your fault. Because let me tell you, by then, I knew it was never my fault. It was always somebody else's fault. The pity story and where I'd been and all that lot. But I could never break free. And so what happened, I got the sack, I got a job on the door of a nightclub called Rooftop Gardens and a pub called the Woolpack on Woolpack Court at the top of Westgate. Am I talking too fast? Right, good. So Natasha will kill me if I do. And so I got this job, and New Year's Eve of 1990 to 1991, I hit an undercover policeman, and that was it. I was back in prison. And I went to jail. I went to a jail called Armley in Leeds. And but in that prison, something happened to me. I had a bit of a breakdown. They reckon I had a psychotic break, and it was inward. And some said I was a manic depressive. Some psychiatrists said one thing and another. But I just knew I was very low, very depressed. And I ended up going through the prison, being really low, not coming out of my cell. And I got back to Middlesbrough. And when I got back to Middlesbrough, my life, I felt, was over. I became very depressed. I didn't see any way out of this life. As I say, my nana had died. Anything that ever resembled anything good to me was gone. And I started using heroin. I started injecting heroin, smoking crack cocaine, drinking alcohol like it was gone out of fashion. I took tablets. I even snorted paracetamol. They didn't do out of me. I just didn't get a headache. So I was in a bad way. And so I lived on the street. I was a tramp. I weed and pooed myself and thought I'd tell you that before dinner. And I was in a desperate situation. And these men came in 1996. It was March. And this story is going to get very good now. I've got rid of that rubbish. I'm going to tell you the good bit now. This will only take 3 hours. But it could do, if you want me to. Normally, I've got a long way home. So these lads were on the streets saying about Jesus loving you an organisation called Teen Challenge, and this lad said to me, "Do you know Jesus loves you?" And I told him to go away politely. I think I said, "Please leave me alone," in French. He went anyway, but then they came back the week after and telling everyone about Jesus. And I said to this lad called Aidan, I said, "Come here, I want to talk to you." And he sat next to me, and he must have been like, but because I was a real stinker. I even did that the best I could, be a tramp. And this lad sat next to me, and he went, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, you're telling me about Jesus loving me. One, there's no such word as love. Love doesn't exist. It's a man-made manipulation tool that if you tell someone you love them, you can have what you want and do what you want to them, if you understand what I'm saying. And then Jesus, there's no such thing." My nana sang about Jesus on a Sunday. My door was always open, and on a Sunday I told my mates never come, because my nana must have had 2 bottles of Navy rum that day, because she sang about one day at a time, sweet Jesus, and the old rugged cross, and she'd sing around the house, and I just think, get some more Lagachtel into your nana and get to sleep. But I didn't know what was going on. But anyway, this lad went away, and cut a long story very short, on August the 9th, 1996, I slipped into a coma. I was found on the street. They took blue lighted me to hospital. Then they took me to the main hospital, South Cleveland Hospital. And after 6 days, my mum came to the hospital. Tony, my friend, was there for 6 days. He told me that lots of people came to say goodbye to me on that night, because it had been announced in nightclubs that I was now dead, because I'd had my last rites. And my mum had been given the forms to switch the machine off that was keeping me alive. And my mum didn't know what to do when she was told that. And she said, "Can you give me a few hours to think about it?" She went out of the room. She came and looked at me again. I was 11.5 stone, 6'6", laid on this bed with a tube going down my throat, a ventilator machine, and tubes coming out of me. And she didn't know what to do. She was hearing voice, people saying, let him die, because he's living hell on earth. He's got no life. And then he had others saying, "You've got to fight for him." And these men, Pete, Aidan and Nicky, came to the hospital, and they asked my friend, "Where's Graham's mum?" And cut a long story short, she eventually let them come and pray for me. And she had the forms in her hand to sign. And they came into the room, and I asked what was said, and they put their hands on my head, and they said, "In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, give this man new life." And I woke up. I pulled the ventilator out of my throat because I was choking. And my mum ran and got the consultant, Dr. Cove Smith, and said to him, "Listen, I've got these forms. You told me my son was dead, and yet he's clearly woke up." And he examined me and said, "You're right, he's out of the coma, he's not in the coma anymore." And my mum said, "Well, what's happened?" And all he could say, "Well, he's made a remarkable recovery." Because he didn't know what to say. He was totally lost for words. The next day I wake up, my mum's there, and she tells me that story. And I said, "Well, what does Jesus want to know about a scumbag like me for?" Because I had no intelligence to think of why Jesus would want to die for someone as bad as me. The reason I'm in the Alpha videos is because my mum told Nicky Gumbel that she used to call me the son of Satan. I was a really bad person, and Nicky Gumbel grabbed hold of it and has used it ever since. And that was in 1999. And but I went on an Alpha course. And I was in hospital for 7 weeks. 7 weeks, and I had to get taught to walk again. And because my brain wouldn't tell my legs to move, so they had to teach me how to walk again. When I finally got out of hospital, I knew there was something different. Because you know what? I went into that coma a bit like Rocky Marciano and Arnold Schwarzenegger, very angry and violent. And I woke up like Mary Poppins and Cliff Richard. I was totally different. But I didn't know anything about Jesus. I didn't want to know about Jesus. I didn't know about going to church or reading. I didn't want to do that. And yet, there's something happened to Graham that I couldn't deny. But when I got out of hospital, I needed a purpose. And when I seen the young people smoking weed and drinking cheap wine and cider, I wanted to help them. My heart was beating. I still couldn't walk properly. I had to go downstairs on my bum. And I went and told them, and they were like, well, my granddad said you're the worst ever. I was deflated, thinking, how am I going to help? Asked my friend, he went and got these Christian men. And they came to see me, and they said, what's wrong? I said, I want to help people. See, when I told the people I want to help people, they said, don't worry, it'll pass. You'll get over it. You're just vulnerable, Graham. You'll soon get to normal and be hurting people. They seem to like that person. They didn't seem to like the person who might be wanting to help people, mainly because I could protect them in some way. But I wanted to help people, really did want to help people. So they said, go to an Alpha course. I said, what's one of them? They said, it's a 10-week course, and you get fed as a meal. I said, I'm coming. Sign me up. Sign me up, I'm coming. They said, having them burgers. The burgers are out of this world, by the way. You get them every week. Only kidding. I hope so. I'll be here. Just for the burger. No. So I went to this course. And the amazing thing is, the very thing I asked my mother, what did Jesus want to know about a scumbag like me for? And them telling me he died for me, I missed the first week. The week I was there was, why did Jesus die? This man called Martin Ruddock answered all the questions I had that night. So it gave me a tiny, tiny bit of faith that this might be real. Stayed on the Alpha course for the duration. I went to the Holy Spirit Day, where you go away and listen about things. And the first 2 talks just went over my head. I was thinking about the fish chips and mushy peas that you were getting for dinner. But then on the afternoon, we got asked if we wanted to ask Jesus into our lives. And I had no intention of asking him. But something happened to me. I remember standing and saying, Jesus, if you were real and you loved me, you'll come into my life and show me, because words are not enough. I don't believe that word love, but you'd have to come and show me. And there and then, as I said that prayer, I fell into my chair and I started to cry. But they weren't the tears of the little boy sitting on the stairs crying himself to sleep, wondering who he was and where he was going to go and where he'd come from. These were tears of joy and hope and peace. That was 28 years ago. And I said to Jesus, from now on, there'll never be a day goes by that I don't tell someone Jesus loves them. And for 28 years, I don't know a day that I haven't done that. Even when I've gone on holiday, we haven't been on many holidays, me and my wife. But even when I went to go see my mother in Portugal, I went and told someone about Jesus. My mum got to know Jesus. My mum died 3.5 years ago. But she knew Jesus in a big way. It took a long time for her to get to know Jesus. And then I met Natasha, my wife, who was absolutely amazing, supported me. She's from Romford, but they were born in Shoreditch. And I've got 2 great boys, Caleb and Boaz. Caleb's just finished his university degree in UCL. And Boaz had the chance at one point to play football for Bolton. He played football at a high level. And then now he's gone into a career where he's working at Aldi, wanting to be a manager, or even thinking about going in the fire service, but we'll see what the Lord does in that situation. But the reason I've come to tell you that story and the story of my life is because there's hope. There's hope in everywhere. And the hope that we put ourselves involved with, when we put our trust in things, they don't last. You know, every morning I have a little prayer meeting on Facebook. It's called I Say a Little Prayer for You. And every day I often say that people are putting their hope and their faith in things that don't last. But 28 years ago, I asked Jesus to come into my life and help me. And I have had hard times. Listen, you know, when you get to know Jesus, it's not a bed of roses. In fact, people like to smell the roses, but they don't like to feel the thorns. They like to wear the pretty crowns, but don't want to pay the price. But the greatest thing for Graham Seed and for anyone, when you get to know Jesus, when you go through them storms, when you go through that hassle, there's someone inside who's so strong, can help you through it. Because drugs and alcohol and violence and gambling and all the other stuff that goes with it doesn't last. It doesn't really get rid of the issue. See, Graham Seed needed heart surgery. I really needed a new heart. And Jesus gave me one. I had a heart of stone, as it says in the scripture, and Ezekiel, and gave me a heart of flesh. I love people. People don't believe that it's happened to me. It took a long time for my town to really believe me, because to see a man and not a miracle. But the truth is, my town now is starting to really understand that it's real. I put some book in my back of my book. I put a new chapter. I'm going to tell you this very quickly. When I met my sister, who I didn't know I had, she told me about my dad. My dad's mum, which would have been my nana, was a prostitute, and she was murdered by a friend of mine, which I didn't know. And this man spent his whole life in prison up until he got released, praying and helping other prisoners. He got out of prison. He served Jesus in prison fellowship. He did all kinds of things with his wife before he died, helping people who were in the same boat as him. But two of the people he helped when he got out of prison were the two people who prayed for me in the coma. So imagine this, Jesus, and I want you to think of yourself today, that he was on his hands and knees in the cell saying, Jesus, I'm sorry for what I've done. And Jesus was looking and saying, Bob, keep going, because you're going to help the two men to help the grandson of the woman you murdered. See, that's redemption at its highest quality.
Thanks for tuning in to the HTH Church podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, why not share it with someone you think would appreciate it? And be sure to subscribe to our channel to get notified when new episodes are published. Thanks again for listening, and we hope you have a great day.